Hello friends, this is me, Pickbrain, here today, and well, for a change, I'm not here to quiz you. We're here on a different platform to celebrate all you knowledge enthusiasts. Well, you are the curious minds of this nation or wherever you are. With me here today on this new journey that we are starting is one such curious mind. Well, the world knows him as the brand custodian of the Tata Group. Many know him as an author, speaker, blogger, but we know him best as a quizzer and a quiz master. He's been someone who's really been closely associated with the Tata Crucible as a quizzer, then as a quiz master, and then someone who's really led the way to grow this great brand into an even bigger brand, especially during what the world thought was difficult times through the pandemic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if those were clues for you to crack in a quiz, you would have cracked it by now. With me is Mr. Harish Bhat. Welcome to you, Mr. Bhat.
Thank you, Giri. It's such a pleasure to be in conversation with you, to speak with an iconic quiz master like you. And thank you so much for having developed the Tata Crucible quiz to the iconic event that it is today nationwide.
Well, truly humbled to hear that from you, Mr. Bhat. But we've all always looked up to people like Mr. Bhat. It's one Mr. Bhat who we keep referring to because we have the right to do that sometimes. But there have been many like you, sir, who have always appreciated knowledge, stayed with knowledge as a self-learning and a self-developmental process. Quiz can be an output medium. Quiz can be one sport where you choose to play or not to play. But that's something I think all of us are celebrating here, which is what I really like this new hashtag, Curious Minds. I think it's so powerful. It says so much about a generation which would relate to those two words. So, but before I dwell into that, let me start actually with something many have now asked me, and maybe you are in the position to answer that. What was actually Tata Group's purpose for starting something like this and nurturing a sort of a knowledge revolution like Tata Crucible, close to 2 decades now?
So, Giri, let me just start by pointing out what you said, hashtag curious minds. I think the Tata Crucible quiz actually epitomizes that, epitomizes the spirit of curiosity with which we quizzers participate. And I'm sure there are so many people watching this conversation now who are actually saying, this year, I want to be on Tata Crucible. And I hope all of you looking at this conversation here will decide to participate in the Tata Crucible and experience the excitement of being part of the quiz that Giri conducts. Like I experienced for several years, Giri, till my colleagues stopped me from participating in the quiz. But let me go back to where this began, which was your question. So, in 2004, we were celebrating within the Tata Group the century of trust. It was a very special year. 2004 was 100 years after the founder of the group, Jamshedji Tata, passed away. He passed away in the year 1904. 2004 was also the 100th birth anniversary of J.R.D. Tata. He nominated 3 people, Jamshedji Tata, J.R.D. Tata and Mr. Naval Tata, all in a single year. And in that century of trust, the Tata Group said, what can we do to connect with young minds across the world? If the Tata brand has to be kept equally vibrant, build even more connect and become even more vibrant amongst youth of India, what kind of stuff can we do? And how can we connect with young India? And I'm told that at that time, one of our colleagues, her name was Shamala Padmanabhan, who was with the corporate communications team of TCS, came up with an idea saying, why not a quiz? Why not a quiz which can stimulate young minds? A quiz is something which is very interesting, catches the imagination of people. There are packed audiences whenever you conduct a quiz. And I mean, that's partly, of course, your draw because you are seen as being the most exciting quiz master there is. And it's also because quizzing is such an interesting place. So Shyamala provided this idea and the Tata Group took that on. And that was how the Tata Crucible quiz was born, as an opportunity and a method of connecting with young India and stoking their curiosity. Uh, that was the purpose, and it was called the Crucible, I am told, because the Crucible is where, metals get refined. The Crucible is where the mind gets refined. And the Crucible is always a hot place to be in. And I can assure you, sitting at the Tata Crucible, you are in the hot seat. I've felt that many times. So that's really, Giri, the what should I say, the story of the origin of the Tata Crucible quiz, which has now flowered out to become the country's largest quiz.
That was wonderful, Mr. Bhatt. I do recall the day when Shamla called me. I was, I think, 11 in the night and said, I need a 3-slide presentation tomorrow morning. And I think she had a 3-minute appointment with Mr. Gopalakrishnan to pitch about this quiz. So truly a long journey from there. But specific to the current portfolio that you manage is the brand Custodian. How do you see Tata Crucible from a brand perspective?
Giri, Tata is a brand which has always believed in giving back to the community. Our founder, Jamshedji Tata, said that he would like the community to be at the center of everything we do and not just another stakeholder. I believe that Tata Crucible is one more way of giving back to the community. I think this is for young people to nurture their knowledge, young people to be excited by the horizons of knowledge, by experiencing the excitement of quizzing. So I see that the fit with the Tata brand is very, very strong. This is one more way that the Tata brand is connecting with the community at large. But also, I think the Tata brand wants to be young and is young at heart. And that is, according to me, no knowledge pursuit as young as heart as quizzing. Quizzing is, all about fun. It is about fun around the intellect, but it's all about a lot of excitement. Couple of youngsters getting on stage together and having the gumption to challenge someone as iconic as you. People who have the courage, sometimes the recklessness to say what comes to their mind. So quizzing is all about feeling very young in mind, and I think that's the Tata brand at heart. We do want to be, and we do want to continue to remain young at heart. And finally, I must say this, Giri, that the Tata Crucible quiz reaches out not just to campuses, but also to corporates. And at the end of the day, I hear people after the quiz or quizzing communities across the country talk about the Tata Crucible in very hallowed tones. It is a tough quiz to crack. Okay, it's interesting, but it's challenging, and you've kept it that way. I believe that keeping the quiz at that level of actually being a crucible for quizzers is a property that this country deserves. We deserve a quiz which is serious, exciting, interesting at the same time, and the Tata Crucible is right up there. So many connects with the Tata brand.
So well thought through. That's really interesting. Let me move to the side where you do, of course, not forgive us and you keep picking on the bone that we don't let you quiz anymore. But that's well. I've gone by the decision your team took, not my call. You've been a very passionate, if I may say, knowledge enthusiast. I think you fit a curious mind better than just a quizzer, because I think quiz is a small subset of being a curious mind. But as a knowledge enthusiast, can you tell us something about your own journey as a quizzer? We've never heard that side.
So Giri, firstly, let me tell you that the Tata Crucible has sparked my own interest in quizzing over the past several years. There was a period of time after my college days that my quizzing had gone a little bit into hibernation, and then Tata Crucible came in 2004, and boom, I think my interest in quizzing went up all the way up again. Yes, I am curious just like you, Giri, and I think most people listening to this conversation are also curious, and quizzing is such a wonderful way to evoke and nurture your curiosity. So where did my quizzing journey begin? I think actually in school. I used to study in Madurai in Tamil Nadu, and we used to have inter-school quiz competitions, and that's where my journey of quizzing started. And then at BITS Pilani, I kept pursuing quizzing. We used to have a English Language Activity Society. I was the secretary of that. We used to conduct a quiz called the Brain of Bits, which was very famous in those days. And we used to write out all our questions. You remember those old Hollerith cards that used to be there that went into mainframe computers? So we used to write out our questions on the back of those cards and then read them out from there. And then, of course, after my college, there was a little bit of at IIM Ahmedabad as well. I did some quizzing, and then there was a gap, and then came Tata Crucible. So my journey as a quizzer, Giri, has really been driven by three things. One is by my curiosity. Second is, I think, by my appetite for new knowledge. I love new knowledge from wherever I can pick it up. And third, I do believe, Giri, that quizzing, apart from knowledge, is also a game where you keep connecting the dots very actively, and that the what should I say, there is a that's a very interesting thing to do, connecting unrelated dots and being able to put an answer together. I believe that that's very fulfilling for one's mind, and all those three things keep me going as a quizzer. I still remember being on stage as a finalist at the Tata Crucible in Bangalore, representing Titan in those days. And, whenever I could put the dots together, I used to feel joy. But whenever I missed putting the dots together and another team was able to do it, or when you announced the answer, I would go, oh my God, why couldn't I have thought of that? That, I think, is the excitement of quizzing. So that's been my journey as a quizzer. I hope I continue to be, at least that's my aspiration, that I will continue to quiz until my very last day on earth.
Wow, so well put. I think it's really almost like a template for people who are watching this on the three beautiful things Mr. Bhat touched on in terms of what can keep you alive, not just as a quizzer, but as a knowledge enthusiast. And that's probably what today represents the adage of lifelong learning. If you are willing to be a lifelong learner, I think you will remain curious and feel that you're improving every day. It's very well articulated. Let me move and let me probe you. And I see this more as probing you rather than questioning you, because you're trying to uncover things we don't know about people who we've seen on stage and so on. So it's a different terrain for us as well, playing out these beautiful interactions with curious minds. I know that there has been a lot that has been said and written in the modern world about how quizzers are usually good learners, and therefore they come handy in your own professional growth. Now, you've been a quizzer, knowledge appreciator, you've grown to be someone who's occupied, phenomenal positions in the corporate space. Have you seen this or experienced this, that curiosity has helped you in your professional life, sir?
No doubt about it. I think curiosity has helped me greatly in my professional lives. I've been a marketer in my professional life. And some of the best campaigns that I've put together, best marketing campaigns that I've put together, have been led by my curiosity about things that I did not know about earlier. I can talk about brands of tea that I've launched, okay? And I can talk about, when we launched a brand of Assam tea many years ago in Tata Tea. All the time that I took to find out more about Assam, find out more about the Brahmaputra River, find out more about how tea grows, and distill some of those lessons, which I then shared with our advertising agency to prepare some of those early campaigns that we did in Tata Tea. As much as, Giri, when I used to handle Tanishq, I used to be the chief operating officer of Tanishq, and prior to that, the head of marketing and retailing for Tanishq. Just being curious about jewelry, about the history of jewelry in India, about the history of how the 7-stone, earring came about. or the history of how the Mangal Sutra came about, and Mangal Sutras in different parts of the country. They helped you. They helped you in creating the right product. They helped you in marketing the right product in the right manner. These are just two examples that I'm quoting. But even until today, my curiosity helps me greatly in all the work that I do on the Tata brand. Most recently, my curiosity has helped me in putting a book together like Tata Stories. It was really led by my curiosity to understand some of the interesting facets of the Tata Group's history and then disseminate those facets to the public at large. So I can assure you, Steve Jobs said this once. He said, out of curiosity comes everything. And I can assure you that everyone watching us on this show, if you take up quizzing and you decide to be part of the Tata Crucible quiz, the curiosity that quizzing will evoke in you will help you not only on the stage when Giri is conducting the quiz, but it will surely help you in your professional career. Don't worry about where the dots will join. When you're curious, you get knowledge into your mind. That knowledge gets archived somewhere, and eventually that knowledge will come of use to you in what you're doing in your career. Also, I think, Giri, curious people are such interesting people to know. Some of the most interesting people I know are people who are curious and therefore are able to talk about many, many things in a very interesting and knowledgeable way. So curiosity not only is going to help you in your professional career, but curiosity will probably make you an even more interesting person than you are today.
Well, all the youngsters who are watching this, why youngsters? Anybody who's watching this, I think those are really profound words of advice or wisdom coming from Mr. Harish Bhat here today. You're watching a unique interaction between Curious Minds and me, Pickbrain here. Let me ask him one more question. He is certainly known to all of us watching this as also someone who's played Quizmaster at Tata Crucible. So let me move to that moment where I want to actually nudge him, if he can, or request you to question all the curious minds who are watching this telecast with a question of yours, Mr. Bhat. I know I'm kind of stumping you with this, but if you can ask a question, we'd be delighted to throw that maybe. Well, the Tatas are ever willing to give prizes, so I'm sure your team can even throw in a prize if they get that right.
So I'm always game to ask questions, and I look forward each year to doing the From the Corner Office round for the Tata Crucible. I must tell you how much I agonize over those questions before I finally submit them to you, hoping that they will pass muster with you. But here's a question for all of you. And this question is from the world of the Tatas. The question is, Lady Meherbai Tata was the wife of the second chairman of the Tata Group, Dorabji Tata. She owned a famous diamond, which was amongst the largest diamonds in the world. And eventually, that diamond was pledged to the Imperial Bank of India to raise funds to save Tata Steel from a collapse. Now, my question for you is, what was the name of that diamond? And secondly, why did it carry that name? What was the name of the diamond and why did it carry that name? That's my question for you. But Giri, I have a simpler bonus question as well.
All right.
And my simpler bonus question is, which is the sport in which Lady Meherbai Tata excelled? There is a sport in which Lady Meherbai Tata excelled. It's a sport which is very well known to us. And which was recently in the news because one of its iconic players retired. So what is the sport? What sport are we talking about? So two questions actually, Giri, the name of the diamond that Lady Meherbai Tata owned and the sport at which Lady Meherbai Tata excelled. She won more than 60 championships in that sport. I look forward very much to the answers from the quizzing community and from people who are interested in quizzing.
Lovely, lovely two questions. Finally, Mr. Bhatt, well, curious minds like us always look beyond the obvious. I was actually looking at the rack behind you where I see Tata stories stacked up behind where you are seated, and you did make a brief mention about it. It must have been it's a treasure trove. I mean, it's something we've read. I've personally read. Uh, my father has read it. He's 89 now, and for him there were stories which he could remember and relate. My young colleague Rashmi's father had read, and they were talking about some stories. So there were a lot of senior citizens who actually took to a book which appealed on the converse to a very young India because it was in a storytelling format, easy to consume. But you put in a lot of work to put that together. We'd really like you to share one story that profoundly touched you from those amazing Tata stories.
So Giri, I must tell you this, that Tata Stories was also a product of my curiosity. And I think I wrote that book so much the better because I was a quizzer. So I was able to blend all those facts very nicely into the stories that are narrated there. I'm going to narrate a story, Giri, which you know, inspired me because it stands for the pursuit of excellence in what we do. And here's the story I'm going to narrate. J.R.D. Tata had founded Tata Airlines, which became Air India. One day, J.R.D. Tata was flying an Air India flight. This was an international flight. It's one of those jumbo airliners, lots of seats. Here was J.R.D. Tata seated on the aircraft. And next to J.R.D. Tata, Giri, was seated L.K. Jha, who was one of the senior most IAS officers of India, private secretary to Indira Gandhi and once governor of RBI. After some time, J.R.D. Tata left his seat and he was nowhere to be seen. And L.K. Jha looked around, no J.R.D. Tata. Waited for 10-15 minutes, J.R.D. is not back. Waited for half an hour, J.R.D. is not back yet. 45 minutes pass, no sign of J.R.D. Tata. So L.K. Jha is getting seriously concerned. J.R.D. Tata is chairman of the airline. He's an elderly gentleman. Where could he have gone? Could something have happened to him? After an hour and 10 minutes, Giri, J.R.D. returns to his seat. And L.K. Jha turns and asks him, Mr. Tata, I was getting concerned. Where were you? Where had you gone? And J.R.D. says, oh, that's nothing. I just walked around. I generally walk around to see that everything is fine on the aircraft. So L.K. Jha says, Mr. Tata, that could not have taken so long. Not an hour and 10 minutes. So J.R.D. says, I went to a toilet and I found the toilet rolls were not okay. That took me time. And L.K. Jha was actually amazed with what transpired, which the crew told him. J.R.D. Tata had gone to a toilet on that aircraft and found that the toilet rolls were not placed properly. So he decided to bend down, correct that, and place the toilet rolls properly himself. And then he went to every toilet on that jumbo aircraft and changed the toilet rolls and placed them perfectly. And the reason he did that, Giri, was to send a lesson out to every person on that, every crew member on that aircraft, but actually to every employee of the Tata Group, that if you wish to achieve excellence, then a quest for perfection is essential to do that. That's how he made Air India into one of the most aspirational airlines worldwide. That's how in 1968, Air India was voted the finest airline in the world. And that is why Lee Kuan Yew, when he was starting an airline in Singapore, told people, go and study J.R.D. Tata's airline before you start Singapore Airlines. So that's a story that inspires me, Giri. And if you come to my office, you will find that statement by J.R.D. Tata on my table. It's been there for the last 30 years. That in anything you do, large or small, aim for perfection, aim for excellence. That's very inspiring for all of us. And I'm sure when we prepare for the Tata Crucible quiz as well, we have to keep that tenet in mind.
Well, that is a really profound story. And ladies and gentlemen, watching this, all you young curious minds or curious, well, someone actually made this statement. He said, if you keep pursuing knowledge, you always remain young. So I think therefore it's all young curious minds. And another point I remember, I didn't want to interrupt you at that time since you were speaking from your experiences. One senior quizzer told me, I did not know this quiz dinosaur in me was sleeping quietly. You woke it up. That was such a beautiful feedback to get. Elderly man, he was close to his retirement. He was with one of the public sector firms. I forget his name, but he used to take part in Chandigarh. And he said, and he restarted quizzing at 56. The last 3 years. And in the last 3 years, he promised himself he will win a Tata Crucible, and he won one at Chandigarh.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's amazing how you can reignite that passion. It's just dormant. I think he put it so beautifully by saying, a dinosaur that was sleeping. But the story that you narrated is chilling. I think it's a goosebump story. You are right. Very few know Lee Kuan Yew actually benchmarked Air India for Singapore Airlines. But ladies and gentlemen, to all of you, well, when you start conversing with someone like Mr. Harish Bhat, that can go on and on and on. That's all we've got time on this first interaction, where we will be interacting with multiple curious minds. You'll find young Rashmi talking to a few of them too. I'm here with Mr. Bhat today. But what's most important to all of you, my dear young friends, it's that season where you can take part in a Tata Crucible. So go ahead and register yourself. If you haven't done that, the only person who's not allowed to register is Mr. Harish Bhat. Well,
thank you for bringing that home to me, that I cannot participate, but all of you watching the show can participate. And I would like to invite all of you, come on to Tata Crucible this year. Participate in the corporate quiz. The season is just starting, and you will find it to be one of the most exciting times of your life, apart from all the spin-off benefits it would have to make you even more curious than you are today. All the best. Do register for the Tata Crucible.
On that note, to all of you, thank you so much for joining us on this journey of conversations with curious minds of Tata Crucible. First in our line, of course, Mr. Harish Bhat. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and for joining us. And hopefully we'll get you to take part in a quiz, maybe not a Tata Crucible. But truly appreciate the way you have patronized this brand, made it what it is, especially through the pandemic. I haven't had the opportunity on behalf of the quizzers, and I always treat myself like a first citizen among the quizzers. The Tatas could have easily paused during the pandemic and said, let's take up Crucible after the pandemic. The way you all grew Crucible in the pandemic, pioneered digital quizzing in India, we really owe a big thank you to you. Thank you so much for that, and truly appreciate that, Mr. Bhat.
And equally, Giri, from the Tata Group, thank you for the way you have nurtured this quiz and made it such an iconic property. Thank you for championing quizzing in India and making it such an exciting knowledge pursuit for young people across the nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. To all of you, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with more conversations with curious minds. Keep watching this space. For now, goodbye from Pickbrain. Thank you.